Good morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This is Bob at Canfield, liveweatherblogs.com meteorologist with today's tropical update for Wednesday, September 22nd, 2010. So today we are continually to watch our system in the Central Caribbean. It's in Vest 95L. Looking at the satellite view this morning, you're starting to see a low-level center of circulation starting to develop here. You can see this turning of the clouds here. And it's starting to get itself together slowly but surely. Still kind of close to the South American coast here. We usually don't see these storms develop too rapidly till they really get past this 75 west line here, once it could get away from South America. But should see this thing slowly start to develop today. And probably by either later tomorrow or into Friday, as it gets into this area here, it'll really start cranking up. And that's when we could see a tropical depression or tropical storm Matthew. Looking at the Curacao radar this morning, and you could see, here we go, we have this circulation center starting to develop right here. You can see the turning of the clouds. So not a lot of convection around it, but it's really starting to get there, and this is only the beginning of this system starting to get better defined and better developed. Again, I'm looking at more like probably Thursday night, Friday time frame when this thing would become a tropical depression or tropical storm Matthew. Looking at the bigger picture here in the Caribbean, so what do we have here? Well, we have a little upper level low here near the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico here. It's in a low shear environment here. Actually, this would create a nice little outflow channel for Matthew if this upper low could kind of stay to its northeast here. So that would actually aid in development. We have this upper trough here starting to lift north, so it'll get out of the way. So it's really going to get into a nice environment here with low shear here in the next few days, and that is conducive for development. Looking at the shear maps, you can see upper high trying to build over our system. Actually, our system's right about here, so just off to its west, upper high, and this upper trough right in here will lift north. So this will open up the stage for pretty low shear across this area. So again, this thing is going to really start to develop in the next probably 24 to 48 hours. And we could easily see does it have enough time to become a hurricane before it reaches the Nicaragua-Honduras border here, or coastline. So that's some of the things we'll have to see. It's definitely going to be slowing down. I'll explain a little of that in a minute. Where's it going in the near term? Well, here we go. It has no other way but to go west, west, northwest. You can see big blocking ridge up here to its north. So what we're going to see the evolution of in the next week is this ridge will shift east as troughs will start to dive down here through the eastern United States. So that's the evolution that we're going to see with this steering pattern. And that could induce this system up to the north eventually. And I'm going to show you some of the model differences on that. It's really going to have to do with how strong our west coast ridge is to see how strong this east coast trough will get. Looking at the water vapor this morning across the west coast, you could see this ridge continually to build here across the Rockies. So we have trough over Alaska here, which is starting to really dive in here. This is going to help to induce the ridge here in the west, and that'll help to drop troughs down through the east coast. So that's the evolution of this pattern change we're going to be watching to see if our storm, if it does well, it's going to develop, but depending on where it goes and how strong it is, will that induce this system up into the Gulf Coast states. I'm looking at the individual models today, and I'll go through everything here as we go along. This is a lot of the early run models. This is a Clark Evans product, and you can see pretty much west, west, northwest here for the next 48 to 72 hours as high pressure still maintains control. Then we're going to see a pretty big slowdown as it reaches the Central American coast here, and that's really going to be the key here. Does it move farther south and then get into Nicaragua, into Central America here, and then slow down and just die over Central America before it has a chance to lift north? Does the center and develop a little farther north, then it may stay over water farther, and then it could get induced quickly to the north here? That's what we really have to watch. There's definitely going to be a pretty big slowdown here as it nears the Central American coast because steering currents will begin to get weak. The high pressure that's controlling it, steering it west today, will move east. Our trough will start to dive down. We could go back to this picture here. this high pressure will lose its grip. This trough will begin to dive down. So then we're going to have that period of really weak steering currents here as it waits for one way or the other. Which way does it want to go before it gets picked up possibly by that trough? So we will see that slow down in here. And then it could just slow down, move west, and just die over Central America. That's a possibility. But a lot of the models are hinting at it's going to more take this kind of track, slow down, and then start lifting north. And that's what we really have to watch for as far as eventual impact across the Gulf Coast or eastern United States area. And again, that's still going out 7 to 10 days in the model range up in here, because it's going to be a pretty big slowdown in here. So it's really going to take its time before it gets north. So again, a long way to go there on the models. Intensity models, again, LGEM, the one I follow the most of, does have it to a category 2 before landfall there across the Central American coast. So it does have a chance to become a hurricane possibly before it does reach Central America. Okay, individual models first. GFDL, basically a west track into Central America. You can see how it really slows it down once it gets towards that Honduras, Belize, that whole area right in here. Pretty big slowdown. So again, that could be one of the factors. Goes west, slows down, possibly dies, goes north. Again, we'll have to watch that. HWRF, a little further north, almost wants to take it through the goalpost here between the Yucatan and Cuba. A track we really don't want to see for the Gulf Coast, but that's what the HWRF model is showing currently. Kind of has a weaker high pressure area up here and brings this trough down a little quicker and hooks it up quickly to the west-northwest to the northwest. All right, so here we go. Here's the this is actually first the UK Met model, another farther west model. You can see development Friday, Saturday time range, and then straight west into the Yucatan Peninsula. Again, doesn't have a as strong of a trough here. You'll see, look at how progressive that pattern is. That trough just swung right through the east coast. More progressive pattern, which means quickly moving from west to east here. But now let's look at the Euro model. Now, so far out of all the models that have, I look for consistencies, especially when we're going out in the long range here, the Euro model actually has been the most consistent model so far. Little flip-flopping with the GFS, although today there's both 0Z, I'll show you GFS and Euro are pretty much close together today, but the GFS has been wavering a little bit. The Euro has been the most consistent model, so far, you know, if I wanted to follow one for the long range, this would probably be the one because of its consistency. And again, it eventually will run the loop here, starts cranking our system here, kind of sits it over the Central American coast for a while, and then boom, ejects it to the north and northeast here. And again, what that's showing here, you can see this trough starting to get carved out right here. Brings that upper low, closed low all the way down here, and then it ejects our system up to the northeast. And the GFS pretty much has that similar pattern. Here we go, kind of sits it over here. Then we have this closed low right in here. And this is actually a little more progressive, the GFS this time. If we're comparing the 0Z run from last night to yesterday's 12Z, yesterday's 12Z run had it kind of laying back this upper low, but now it really brings this closed low farther down. If we can lift this up just a little higher here, you'll watch the evolution of this closed low right in here. Here it comes down, and it's a little more progressive. It kind of kicks it farther south than east here, a little faster, and then that eventually brings our system up across South Florida, then up the East Coast. So again, a lot of similarities today with the Euro and the GFS. But again, we're looking at, you got to understand, this time frame way out here is about 7 to 10 days out before it gets up into the, if it does, up into the Gulf Coast or possibly affects Florida. So again, we have a long way to go. We're just looking at some of the model differences. And again, Euro's been the most consistent right now. And well, I'm going to continue to kind of follow that and see where that takes us. And again, my thinking is right now either it's going to move farther south than west, die over Central America possibly, and never lift north, or it's going to take more of this west-northwest track, kind of sit in here like the GFS is showing, then start to move north, kind of strengthen in this area. Could be a pretty powerful hurricane, and then move north-northeast. So we'll be watching for both of those scenarios right now. Again, if you're along the Gulf Coast, especially the northern Gulf Coast from kind of Louisiana to the east to Florida. Just, you know, be aware of what's happening, and we have a long time to watch this system, and just be aware of it. Another thing we have out there is Tropical Storm Lisa. Again, I'm not looking at much with this system. I think eventually it's still kind of sitting out here. Today it's moving east-northeast at 5, maximum winds 45. It's been pulsing convection back and forth, but no effect for land for this one. It's either going to kind of slowly move to the west-northwest eventually and die off, or just sit out here and die, or again die off and get pushed off out to sea eventually. This will not affect any land. And if we're looking at the satellite view this morning, you could see some northwest westerly shear here affecting it. It's kind of stretched out again today, pulsing convection here and there, but again, not much of a threat for anybody. Well, that's it for my tropical update today. I will have another update for you guys. I might put one out maybe later this evening if I have some time. If not, my next update will be tomorrow morning. Have a good day, and stay tuned to liveweatherblogs.com for your latest weather information.